Ever since The Lost Daughter came out a few years ago, I've found myself increasingly more interested in writer-director Maggie Gyllenhaal than I am in actress Maggie Gyllenhaal. Even when the films themselves are sloppy, she's certainly not playing it safe. She's a filmmaker with a lot to say. The films themselves just need to focus on one of those things instead of all of them at once, all of the time. The Bride is no different. There isn't a single moment of this film that isn't attempting to dissect at least 3 to 4 relevant cultural conversations. And the thesis statements themselves are always interesting, but the absence of any form of body paragraph for any of them makes the inevitable conclusion that tries to make everything coalesce feel very sloppy. In Gyllenhaal's newest take, the ghost of Mary Shelley herself possesses a newly revived corpse made in the image of Frankenstein by a mad scientist, designed to be Frankenstein's new and improved, perfect, forever companion, wife, bride sort of thing. If that sounds like it's a largely overcomplicated way to put a new spin on this story, that's because it is. There's not a ton of explanation or reasoning given as to why or how any of this is happening, which I'm not necessarily arguing that it needs to do, but at the same time, the rules set up in the world for when Shelley's spirit does take over Buckley's character and what powers it does give the Bride and Frankenstein, respectively, is largely inconsistent. A lot of the time, it feels as though it's used as a convenience crutch whenever they need Jesse Buckley and Christian Bale to go buck wild on some unassuming bystanders, which happens a lot, but in between these moments, there's next to no acknowledgement or consequence for these episodes occurring. The screaming match murderous episodes themselves are still very entertaining. There's levels of hootin' and hollerin' and general tomfoolery on display here that I didn't think was possible. Both lead performers give a level of commitment that is absolutely inspiring. It worked for me way more than it didn't, but I would absolutely understand why someone would get very, very annoyed by this very, very quickly. And in fact, I'm shocked that Buckley and Bale's vocal cords even survived principal photography with the amount of screaming they both have to do here. Out of the 2 Joker movies that currently exist on this planet, I was not expecting the one to be referenced the most to be Folie à Deux, but there are at least 3, if not 4 or 5, hallucinatory dance numbers by Bale and Buckley that are inspired by fake old movies they're watching that, accompanied with Hildur Guðnadóttir's score, are bizarrely similar to some of the ones in Folie à Deux. I actually appreciated that film more than 99% of the population, so I'm not necessarily complaining, but it was certainly something that I took note of. While we're kind of on the subject, the score is sensational. I didn't realize it was Guðnadóttir until her name appeared in the credits because it's not really a sound that I would necessarily associate with her work, but to be expected, she still remains one of the absolute best composers working today. There's a subplot they cut back to a lot with Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz as these detectives trying to track down Frank and the Bride that is about 30 semi-important seconds away from being able to be cut from the film entirely. It has a baseline plot function that is stretched so thin, and its thematic purpose is just another one of these thesis statements and a litany of others that does not have nearly enough juice to sustain itself. If you removed both characters from the film entirely, shockingly little about it would change. My opinion on this visually also sways a lot the more and more I think about it. Just on a shot-by-shot individual basis, it looks stunning, but it's cut to all hell in the edit, and there's some really wonky CGI at times too. The background blending needed some serious touch-ups throughout. Even the violence overall is largely tame. There's 2 individual moments of gore that did make me cringe for about half a second, but to be honest, I forgot they even happened by the time the next scene rolled around. Absolutely nothing about this irritated me enough to say that I don't recommend it. In fact, for all of the ideas and swings it at least attempts to introduce, I would actually say the opposite. Even if by the end of the film, I was starting to count down the time on my watch until I could hit the restroom, I'd much rather have this be what it wound up being than some sort of by-the-books, uninspired retread of the classic story, which is what the vast majority of Frankenstein film iterations have been in the past, so take your wins as they come, I guess. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching the video. Thank you for continuing to tune in to the non-review related content I've been putting out on here. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see more of all of you very, very soon. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.